Hello and welcome everyone. Wow, that's loud. Hello and welcome everyone here in Atacama and everyone who's watching online. We're meeting today for the 11th edition of the Tech Uncovered panel discussion series. Today it's about security and compliance, and I'm very happy to see a lot of people here. Hopefully there is a lot of people watching, because when I mentioned this to many people, they were like, security and compliance? I don't think so. It's not going to be interesting. So I hope we'll make it interesting, and it's actually our goal to put, as somebody put it, put a human face on security and compliance. And we have 3 human faces here today who will be representing this topic. And just to start, this panel discussion will be focused mostly on the 3 companies that we have here today. But at the same time, all 3 panelists have some past in the area. So sometimes they'll talk about that as well. But mostly it will be about Atacama News and Pure Storage. And also, disclaimer to start with, since we're talking about security and things can get paranoid, things can get too touchy, so it's okay when any of the panelists says no comment. Please don't push on them to hear the answer from them. Ask them later on, maybe they can say it off the record. So yeah, I would like to welcome all 3 panelists, Irena, Onza, and Eduard. And let's start with some brief intro. Don't make it a long sales pitch, but tell us what you do in Atacama. Also for the context for the later discussion, how many people are in Atacama and maybe how many people are in the team, and a little bit about your past, how it shaped you into this role where you are now.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Irena. I'm the head of security for Atacama. My team consists of 7 people, including myself, and I report directly to CEO. We're a company of roughly 550 people, so it's still rather small and easily manageable, and that's pretty much my biggest challenge.
The size?
The size.
It's too small.
Growing.
Okay.
Growing.
And so how was your past? Like, how did you get into this role?
I started about 13 years ago as a back office assistant. Went through marketing, some inside sales, back to back office, and now I landed in the security area. And it was more from the compliance side first, and slowly getting into more and more competencies, getting more technical, understanding the product that we sell, understanding the security aspects, the technical ones. So I ended up where I am now.
So inspiration for all of us here. You don't have to really study for it. You don't have to be hardcore security person from the early on, but you can grow into it. Onza, what's your story?
Not so similar, but my name is Onza. I'm a director of IT and security compliance in Muse. Muse is right now around 700 people, and the team is really divided into 3 fundamental parts: support, infrastructure, and security and compliance. So we will be talking really about 1/3 of the team, but you will very soon realize that it's actually all 3 parts that we're combining when we're talking about compliance, security, and all the stuff.
So what's in your CV?
What's in my CV?
Before Muse, yeah.
So I started in IT 15 years ago, almost 15 years ago. And it's pretty much everything. I started as a first-level infrastructure support in McKinsey back then. And it was great to really be surrounded by people that working in all those different infrastructure teams like network, Wintel. Some of those terms are actually no longer existing. But that was the beginning. Then I moved to several different startups, several different corporations.
What's the biggest corporation you've been like in number-wise?
Employee-wise?
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Yeah.
180,000.
Okay, so for you, 700 Muse is quite a small one.
The challenges are the same. It's just the scale that's different.
Awesome, but I guess your background is really like very much focused on IT and security from the early on.
Mostly, like I was one of those. I didn't know like which So in 2008, I wanted to be.
Get ready for a story.
I wanted to be a Lotus Notes administrator. That was something that I really, really liked back then. So I'm still Domino certified, if that means anything nowadays.
Somebody's laughing, so somebody knows.
It exists.
But since I was not really 100% sure what I want to do, I moved to network, I moved to VoIP, I moved to all sorts of different application support, different analytic jobs, and yeah, like basically all come together in news because I can take an advantage of all the different past experiences of the good stuff and also the bad stuff.
Eduard, are you certified in the same thing that he mentioned?
No, but I've done a lot of similar things in the past. So I started as a system administration, then network administration, I did a bit of endpoint security, then consulting in security, and then now recently, since about a year, I've joined Pure Storage, just to work with many different teams in security operation, but also with architecture, compliance and risk, and product security.
And how many people are in Pure Storage right now?
About 5,000.
5,000, okay.
Pure is about 10 years old, maybe a bit more. And before I used to work for like 100K, 1,000 employee. So Pure is rather small for me. So yeah.
And how big is the security team that you're part of? I guess it will be more complicated than...
It's about 20, but spread over 4 teams, actually. But it feels like one team because we all work really well together.
And I think good thing to remember is that Irena and Onza are the managers of those teams, and you are
just an individual contributor.
Yeah, which is the perspective we also want to give in this talk. So I have first ice-breaking questions. I have, what is one cliche about your work that you keep hearing and always try to explain that's not the case? What you hate about people saying about what you do? Onza, you can start. If there is anything.
The negative?
Yeah.
Let's start with the negative.
Is anyone saying anything positive about your...
My mom. No,
Hello.
the negative is obviously like when we talk in exclusively security and compliance, people tend to think that we are in everyone's way. We are not really allowing to really do their work without any interruptions. However, just like every single game, even the IT business or any type of business has its rules. So hence the need. But
So would you see yourself or the role of security as the rule keepers in the business?
as long as the security team is also influencing the governance and compliance, then yes.
Irena?
Should I follow up on this or should I make my own?
Well, if there is
I
your
can-
own, or
I
you can follow up and maybe elaborate on that more.
I can do both because, yeah, I feel the same pain as Onza, that people perceive us as the whip crackers, those who are in the way of me expressing myself through my work. And it's not the case, actually. I've written a manifesto for our team, and it says first line is, we support your business, we just want you to do it in a secure way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's our goal. That's our main mission, and that's the actually ultimate incentive for us. If you're happy, you can do your job freely, and we're also happy because we feel that it's all secured. And some other misconceptions, I would start, maybe it's a male-dominated field, but also females are now on board. So I need to promote Atacama a bit. We're one of the rarity, a female-dominated security and compliance team.
Wow.
One of the in Prague. I didn't count. I didn't make any inquiries or statistics, but I believe it's so.
Nice. Eduard?
Trying to make users understand that we're not here to make their life miserable, but make their life more secure when they're at work.
So it sounds like this is the one thing that maybe if there are any other security professionals, maybe you would have the very same answer, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And is there anything you dislike about your role? Irena.
Probably the fact that every decision I make, somebody will hate me for it.
Okay, we're back at it a little bit.
I echo this.
You wanted to say the same? Yeah.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that
The endless conversations with people.
oof.
Why
People.
is this? Why we have to do this? We didn't need to do it yesterday, and changes.
Yeah.
So overall, people are not really, no one likes a change, but sometimes changes are for the better.
Very nicely
It's
said.
hard to convince.
Edward.
Often people see security only about what surrounds them and what is constraining them, but they don't see the overall picture of what security brings to the whole company. That's what I hate. People are like, oh, this thing is not working for me. Why can't you do this? Well, we're doing it for the whole company, not just for you.
And it's also because we cannot often share the details of our work because it's confidential, right? Like we cannot say we just stopped a hacker hacking our infrastructure. We can't say that. So people don't really see the good things that we bring. They only see the restrictions, the rules, the policies that, oh, I need to do this and I cannot do that because security says so. It's really tough.
I think in every company there is departments that kind of hate each other. Sales may hate the developers because they don't deliver it too fast. But I think in your case, everybody hates you, right? Like it's that you don't have you're in the chain. You are kind of in the middle.
Pretty much.
So let's change that today. And so we have maybe two parts of the whole discussion. One is mainly about the structure and the operation of the security in your organization. And the second one is how to grow the business, when the company is growing in numbers, in revenues, etc. So you touched upon it a little bit, Irena. You mentioned who you report to. So for you, it's directly CEO. Why is that, and what are the benefits and maybe cons of that?
Benefits. I can directly speak to the one who decides about everything. So if we say, or if we agree on certain things that, yes, let's do it this way, it's usually a very quick decision or instructions like, okay, I understand this case. Let's run it through the management circle. Let's propagate, do your job, make it happen. Cons, the CEO is often very busy and only marginally has understanding of the security concepts and the real risks. So I need to learn how to communicate to a layman, basically. Someone who needs to make quick decisions based on facts that need to be explained to him or her in terms that they can understand.
Yeah. Edward, since you are a larger company, you report to chief...
just indirectly to the CSO, CISO. We have 3-4 teams, but if you like we're just one team, we can talk to the CISO whenever we really want. We just Slack him and then ask him, hey, can we have a chat? And he'll always welcome us to talk to him.
And this person is already to CEO, or there is...
One level
more?
Yeah, in between.
Okay, so yeah, I guess here you can see really the difference where here the streamline is kind of faster. For you, it's really fast to get to CEO. For you, Onza, it's
CTO.
one CTO. So, and I didn't ask you about the benefits. Oh, you mentioned them, that you kind of, person is...
Even though we have those different teams, we really talk to each other quite often. We share about our projects, what we're doing on day-to-day, and we're spread over 3 continents. But still, it doesn't matter. We can talk to each other during the day, during the night. I mean, everybody's pretty responsive, so that's nice to see that.
Have you met this person? Isn't it AI? Yeah, because he answers every time of the day.
The company is based in Mountain View, close to San Francisco. So went there 2 times already. People from Prague going there, meet the team, and it was really good to meet each other.
Okay.
So.
Onza, so for you it's CTO.
For me, it's CTO. It wasn't always CTO. I think it's fair to say what was the beginning. And when I joined Muse, back then IT sit with people team, so HR.
Which is quite a common concept, isn't it?
No.
No?
That is definitely not a common concept, but now I get it. Now I can even try to defend it, because back then, hypergrowth, we were scaling up really quickly. It sort of makes sense that all the quote-unquote support roles, because IT was perceived as the team who is handing the laptops and taking those laptops from the employees that are leaving. So,
but you were doing it, right?
At some point, yeah. But the advantage of that was we had the opportunity to learn the concepts within the HR team. And at this, no matter what, HR is a big topic for compliance. HR is a big source of information that IT relies on. So knowing their processes, knowing how they work, knowing what are their weaknesses or strengths was really good for us to actually scale the team correctly. Then we moved to our tech department. So right now I'm reporting to CTO. Definitely the advantage is obvious, like we talk in technical person with technical person, so we actually know where we're coming from. Making the decision is fairly quick and fast. And I know that whatever I will tell him, he will take it to the leadership, get the necessary buy-in, and then we can start.
So out of these three, each one of you has a different story. Is there any ideal one? Maybe not out of these three, but have you heard, have you seen, or is there a company that you kind of look at that they have it really sorted out?
I'd say none.
No.
There's no good or wrong,
Okay.
right or wrong.
It's just an organizational thing?
Yeah, and the history of the company and how it evolved. I think the good thing is to have a CISO, a C-level executive, participating in business decisions together with the whole C-level management, meaning CISO and CEO, CISO reporting to CEO, and then everything else under the CISO.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess you are on the path getting there, your two companies?
Yeah.
What's the number of employees when it's like, okay, we need CISO? Is there a number like that?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
It really depends on the business needs, the strategy, the plans, the future plans.
I feel
CISO for me is starting at thousands, not hundreds.
Before we started, they were telling me how great questions I have, and I feel like they lied to me because I feel like I've had at least 2 bad questions already. But so Onza, you mentioned that your closest peer, CTO, he's your technical go-to person. Who are your most important peers in the company? You mentioned people team in the past. Are they still your, let's say, main peer?
That's a good question.
Okay, write it down. Good.
Well, define important.
Not so good. After all.
Is it difficult because we rely on them?
Who are your closest? Like, who do you talk the most in
I
a week?
try to talk to everyone, because no matter what, everyone will say IT, compliance, security. We are not protecting only some invisible stuff. Like each and every single department needs to understand that we are here even influencing their job, how they doing, how they working towards the common goals that we have. So we talking really with everyone, but the closest, HR, finance, and to a certain extent, our product.
Somebody mentioned legal.
Legal, of course, but legal in our case is part of finance. So that's why finance.
How about product security? Because for all of your companies, is it divided that product security is one and the company security is one team?
Yeah.
So how much are you in touch with the product security in Atacama?
A lot, actually. We have regular statuses with the head of product security or the representative for product security in engineering. So we're discussing the topics back and forth. My requirements maybe from the customer that I hear, and other parts of the company to the product, and him actually communicating to me, like, we're doing this, and we're just enhanced this, and we need a pen testing, and we're scheduled for another pen test here and there, because I need this information again for the customers. So we're like back and forth exchanging information.
And does the product security person report directly to the CEO as well, or?
No, reports to VP of engineering.
Okay.
He reports to another person, and then to CEO.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have it directly, and they have to go, they have to climb up.
They are a much bigger team.
Okay,
Yeah, there's like 200 people in engineering.
right. But not in the product security team.
No. The whole engineering, but the product security is, or should be, intertwining everywhere.
Right.
So we have a nice structure, actually. We have spaceports, meaning teams, individual teams working on specific modules, and every team or every spaceport has their own representative in a so-called security circle. And they're called security champions. So this person that I'm communicating with is in charge of the security circle. So anything that we talk in between each other, he then makes sure everyone else from the circle knows. So, and I'll also participate at the circle meetings, so we can, raise questions or just discuss things. I can ask, like, hey guys, how are you doing this and that in the product security, or if there is some important CVE being patched right now, so everyone knows, and I know, I can then back communicate to other teams.
Right.
Yeah, it works very efficiently.
How about you?
We have two teams that does product security. One is close to the engineering team, and one which is in our, the overall group that reports to the CISO. And this team is doing all the certification, ISO 27001, SOC 2, and then other certification that applies to the products. And then we answer questions coming from customers. And then the other team is much closer for whenever there's a vulnerability on the products. That team will answer a question regarding that specific vulnerability. And then we, of course, are in touch with this team all the time. So two teams, but really working close together.
Nobody mentioned sales and marketing. How much are you in touch, or how much is your team in touch with sales and marketing, and them knowing what they can sell and where?
I'd say marketing tend to spawn some infra all over the place. And I'm not talking about Pure, I'm talking about generally. So we tend to discover new assets all the time. So that's pretty common.
Have you ever discovered like a country where you weren't compliant, but your product was sold, and not only for Pure?
I haven't heard of it at Pure. And Pure's drop, I haven't heard either, because I was not really in that area. But quite often we just find some system that was laying on the ground and very important, and then we almost decommission that system, and yeah, decommissioning would have a huge impact. And there's a lot of other things, like a domain that we own that we didn't renew, and then we had to renew it urgently because there's an event happening, and then we didn't have a CMDB in place to track all those assets properly. And I don't think any company has one anyway.
Hans, how is your relationship?
With marketing and sales?
Yeah. Or how are you cooperating? Do you ever talk, like, do you discuss, for example, new markets?
As I said, like, we are talking with everyone. We need to know what everyone is cooking in their respective teams. But obviously, like, all right, I'll say it, like, they are not the tech savviest. Let's put it this way. So
it depends which company, though.
It is definitely an opportunity, but we have to be realistic. Like, those teams we have to observe a little bit more.
But maybe you are there also to educate them, no? Because it's their job to sell. Your job is to give it secure.
Exactly. Like, they are part of the business nonetheless. Without marketing, we are not seen. We are without sales.
So are you, let's say, proactive?
They're paying for our paycheck, so we need them. We need to take care of them, and we need to ensure that they know at least the basics, the mandatory minimums. So.
Irena, with you, you are directly talking to CEO, so you can influence maybe quicker or better than the other panelists. So how is it for you?
Well, me reporting to the CEO doesn't mean that I have to go through him to every other team in Atacama. I go directly. I have very good relationships with all the teams, marketing, yes, sales, of course. 2 reasons. Marketing operates our website. It's our shopping window, first contact with our customers usually, or conferences. I come from marketing, so I have a very good understanding of what the team is doing. So, so I can tell them, yeah, this is probably your needs, my needs are this, let's just cooperate. So security of the website. Also, the Chief Strategy Officer in charge of the whole marketing and go-to-market strategies, when they decide to go to a certain region or focus on a certain vertical, I say, well, this vertical or this region has some requirements in terms of certificates, for example. Every such certificate might be a very costly thing. So you need to take that into account when going into new areas, so that's also one of the reasons why we're in touch. And with sales, customers often come through compliance because they send questionnaires. When they want to buy our product, they want to know what's the security posture of our company. So they send out questionnaires which our team handles for the security part. So we talk not only to sales, because the engagement manager contacts us like, hey, fill out this questionnaire, or come to a call, explain to the customer what you're doing and how everything is fine, secured, perfect. And also with pre-sales and other teams operating with the customer on individual cases or discussions or questions that the customer may have in terms of security and sometimes even product security, which we then refer to someone from the engineering.
Have you ever put your foot down and said, no, we cannot do this from the security point of view?
Not exactly like this, but one of the customers had very hard requirements and they just were not sure. We were high risk for some reason. I think it was a made up reason, but let's not get into that. But they wanted us to provide more and more evidence, where the evidence was so sensitive that I just couldn't say, okay, I'll just give you the scan of our Active Directory, or, I don't want to get technical too much. But basically, I had to say, no, there's a hard stop. I'm not giving out anymore. You can't get that directly. Let's take a third party who would assess our situation, write a report, and tell the customer everything is fine, because it was just too intrusive, too much, too violating the privacy sometimes, So I just had to kind of protect.
Yeah, be the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Anything you would like to add to this? Do you have any experience?
Saying no is like daily bread, to be fair. You have to. Sometimes you simply have to, but usually it's a silly thing. Obviously, it really depends what the topic is. If it's like a customer requirement, then obviously it depends
On the size and...
on a size of, exactly. So anything is possible.
Yeah.
We just have to have the conversation about
Sometimes
that.
be creative.
Well, we can say yes, but we have to say how risky it is going to be, right? And someone needs to own the risk and accept it. So then it's like, yeah, okay.
Playing with the odds,
it's your
kind of.
choice.
Yeah.
So
Just
we
need
don't have
the
to
numbers,
say no.
the data.
The data. That was the original
Here we go again.
There was the original clash, because Eduard says that in security, everything is about data. Irena said it's not all about data. So maybe let's talk about that. What did you mean by it when you said it?
Well, it's all about data. You need to have good data in order to assess how is your security in terms of risk. If you say, I've got too much phishing happening, okay, what are numbers? Are we talking about 5% are phishing, or are we talking about 15%? Or, okay, we have, could be too many dropping packets. Does it mean that we have same what's the percentage of it? What's the impact? Whenever I say, my boss is like, okay, you're looking at this issue, can you quantify the issue? So you need the data to measure it. And then the decision will be based on
The data.
that data.
So you're data-driven.
Yep.
Irena.
Well, so are we. So I would like to say, yes, I agree with that 100%. But you have humans on the other side. And if I say, OK, this is the data, customers want this is the requirement, we have to do this, they're not going to understand it because it's just too cold. We need to kind of say, we're on your side as well. Like, we understand this is going to be hard for you. It's a change. It's a cultural change. It's a big cultural change sometimes. And we feel you. We're on the same page. We are one of you actually having to undergo the same change. So I guess the data needs to have a human touch to it and kind of pat on the shoulder sometimes if it's needed, explain again, and don't be mad at someone asking again and again. You know, this is a...
How many times? When you're, how many times you have to say it again when you say it's all about data?
Well, obviously that's personal.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, everybody has a different amount of
again.
patience.
Yeah. But I think this is a nice, example of somebody being data-driven and maybe somebody being data-informed, because I think those are the two approaches when looking at data. Should I get to your quote? It is what it is.
Self-explanatory.
IT is what is IC. Yes. No, but Onza, I want to ask you something, because you talk a lot that you talk to people, that you talk to a lot of people. Yes, I mentioned many times people. But what are the additional scopes of your work? Because, of course, we are breaking maybe the vision of the security of being cold people living somewhere in the cave. So what are the additional scopes of your work? Maybe that you enjoy. Or nobody ever said that? Nobody.
So then again, like, I have to go back to the structure of the team. And again, support infrastructure security and compliance. 3. What I enjoy the most is not only that, you know, we are establishing the whole GRC structure within our team, so governance, risk, and compliance as well. And we can actually have the whole cycle inside the team. So we can find the risk, we can identify the risk, we can talk to all those subject matter experts that it's really a risk for the business. We can develop or create the solution. The solution, once approved, we can do it, and we can even support it for the long term. So we can be part of that life cycle, and that's the most, I think that's the most important thing for me, because like I would hate to be only like one part. Sorry. You know, like I like the whole story. So not only that we are identifying, but we are also like supporting it continuously and everything in between. So that's probably the stuff that I enjoy the most, but I don't know if I answered it.
No, this is a nice one. because at the beginning I asked you what you hate about your job, but now we kind of nicely moved over what you love about your job. Eduard.
The people I work with.
These people or? Okay, yeah.
No.
I mean, yeah, you too, but the interaction with the different team, and not only security, talking with the products, talking with finance, HR, making relationship, because at some point of time we might work with those teams that we don't usually work with.
Even if they think that you're trying to make their life harder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's trying to convince them that we're good people and we're trying to make their job easier. And it's also different than my previous companies, because here there's a big amount of engineers in Prague, and then back in the US there's a lot of sales, finance, not only engineers. So we have to talk with those people to get to know them and see how we can work together to make the security better.
Irena.
I love that I can be part of creating processes or creating new things because we're growing, and at one point you have nothing, and then you have to get to a point where you have everything. So the journey is very hectic, very turbulent, but very rewarding because you can see the job behind your work behind you. Yeah, and I just discovered that my superpower is writing policies. So
Wow.
I wrote all of them initially. Now they've been taken care of by other members of my team. So and other teams, of course, as well. But yeah, that's something that I enjoy.
So writing policies you enjoy. You maybe.
No, it's more about like trying to imagine you're a person who knows nothing of how things work, right? And you're supposed to read a one-pager that tells you everything. How do you do it in a clear, structured, and concise way so people can understand kind of, yes, not the reason, okay, I do know why you're doing this, and actually do it. So this probably is a superpower.
Do you only pass information to your colleagues and employees in written form, or do you do some other forms? Do you do videos?
Yeah, of course, yeah. A lot of presentations and question and answers, Slido, and etc. all the time.
Before we go to the next part, I want some yes/no questions to start. So, bring your own devices.
No.
Yes or no? No. Onza?
Yes.
Some of them.
Okay. Phishing testing.
Hmm?
Phishing testing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I have a note, elephant in the room here. Password manager 2FA.
We do.
That's
Mandatory.
the core.
Why did I write elephant in the room? Like everybody says yes.
What is that elephant?
I don't know, you told me that.
It's
That's a good question then.
That's a good answer.
because password managers are notorious for being breached, right? So we don't want to entrust all our passwords to a service that's, insecure by design because it's in the cloud, but it's still better than not.
I will not ask you if you had LastPass, but I want to ask you if...
But password manager doesn't solve really the issue of password in the wild. I mean, some people, they still use password manager and write the password somewhere because it's more
on a
convenient.
sticky note on their
Not
computer?
on a sticky note, just on a file, because it's more convenient for them than just having to log into the password manager all the time. They're lazy.
How to fight this?
There's tools for that, to scan files, scan repositories.
Like force change in passwords? Or
So let's say you're a developer and then you're writing code, you're committing the code to a repo, and then there's a tool that will scan all the commits and will find password based on patterns, and then we'll alert the security team, hey, we found this. This is the person that is linked to that password. Or if it's a file stored on Dropbox, G Drive, whatever, you can also have some tools that would scan all the different files to find hidden passwords.
Okay.
And then alert it. There's many more ways to detect, but that's one way.
Is your family using password manager? Have you succeeded?
I try to force them to use it, and one of them actually had to do it after 3 years because her account got hacked. And I said, well, time to do it.
You could have said, I told you so.
And I did say that.
Yeah, nice. Irena,
No, I wasn't successful.
Onza?
The family question?
The family question.
Well, partially, I guess. Well, every single time when my dad asked me, I need help with something on my iPhone, he also pulls his little notebook or notepads where he has all the stuff written, and usually it's not correct either. So
And probably
I moved, like, I did an extra step, and I'm actually saving his passwords in my password manager, so I can actually support him even remotely.
I thought, you would go to that notebook and write like a 4 somewhere, so he's like broken and he has to remember.
You don't want to know what the passwords for my dead stuff is.
One of the most difficult things is educating people how to use it every day and how to make sure that they remember how to use it. Because you may explain them for like every single month, but they will forget at some point. So it's all about educating those people how to keep their secrets safe.
I think for us in Muse, like using password manager is exactly like that educational bit, right? Because is it the absolute core of our business? Of course not. But it's definitely like a move towards the right direction rather than telling them, so now set your 8-digit or 8-letter long password and change it on every 3 months. And that's it. That's our corporate policy.
And I think we did touch about that before the talk, that all our company, the 3 company, we have a policy of not changing the passwords. Indeed, to have people.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
But it needs to be sufficiently long
Yes.
to be in this, at least 15.
Yeah. and
Characters.
In our case, we do some quarterly audits, so we try to hack the passwords, and then we send the alert to the person that we succeeded and tell him, please make it more safe.
And at least if I can speak for Muse, we have it quite heavily vested in the new hire orientation time. There is a dedicated time where we really explain why it's important, and then the manager is responsible for checking that this person used the diceware and created like a solid password. So let's get into the becoming corporate and what it means. So what it means to be a corporate, and is it a bad word? Well, probably I'll ask you, because for you 5,000 is a small company, small startup.
It's not a bad thing to be corporate. I mean, you need to learn the processes because the faster you grow, the bigger you grow, the more process you have to put in place to make sure that your systems are working correctly, that the sales cycle are going through quickly, and that you're generating revenue the more efficiently possible. So security is part of it. Of course, but I think it's the job of everybody to make sure the processes are followed and that processes are efficiently made.
Irena?
There is a transition. You can never tell, are we corporate yet or aren't we? How long it will take us to become real corporate? So I think it's the process in the making that one day you actually realize, wow, this is pretty heavy. We're probably a corporate now. It's the change from I go to John, Carol, Susan to do something. Right now, we just create a ticket. So that's probably one of the distinction between startup and
that's a good one.
Yeah.
So we've been corporate for a while, Onza.
Yes. But in a good way. I mean, obviously, like there are bad sides or the negative side.
So what would be a negative side for you being a corporate?
Individual teams not talking to each other with rigid processes, impossible to change them. You have to go, every single change takes forever. You have to go many extra miles in order to get things done.
But isn't it inevitable for any business?
Not necessarily, I think. I mean, once you reach like 100,000 employees, then, it's a 50-50 if it's working or not. Usually it's not. But smaller...
Depending on the vertical the company is working in, it can be even, like banking and insurance is really tough to be efficient.
Yeah. But, I think every single company, no matter the size, they should always remember like where they're coming from, what is their origin, the startup-y fun times where everything was possible. It should be still there, but with some ground rules, and that's it. Like we should not be standing in a way. We should be actually clearing the way.
Enabling.
Sorry.
Enabling.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that. Sorry, you want.
The technical debt should not keep increasing. You can keep it steady as long as it doesn't harm your business. But if you keep collecting the technical debt, that's going to impact everybody. So that's.
So you mentioned, both of you, kind of the benefits of, let's say, becoming a corporate or bigger companies, processes, some ground rules. How do you sell this to the leadership, that it's a good thing? Onza. Oh, sorry.
Well, we were extremely lucky that pandemic happened, for example. Even though that it was a tough time for our business, for sure. We saw exactly, like, processes are in place, not for the good times, not when everything is going exactly according to a plan, because that's just happening. But processes are here for the time when something is a little bit more difficult. So you have at least some boundaries, you have some sentinels. Even if your most critical person will leave the team, the process is still in place. The process is not a name like Carol or Jack, but the process still needs to work. So it's actually a good thing, because that's ensuring that we will continue working and everything will be still working. So that's the positive of having processes in place. And without them, I mean, good luck.
And keep reviewing the processes all the time in a constant manner to make sure the process is still as efficient as when it was designed.
Irena, is it possible to keep the memos in one-pagers, or with the growing business you'll have to do a two-pager?
Maybe sometimes even 17-pager. It's quite long. No, it's impossible to keep it short. We're still in the transition, so we create a ticket and then go to the person saying, Franto, I opened the ticket with you. Can you please look into it? Yeah, so that's the good part, to still keeping the culture. But yes, as Onza said, we also have to kind of clear the way from the ballast, really, from like everybody can do anything they want, to becoming like, hey, you cannot really do this exactly, try not to do this, and start slowly, trying to make people understand why it is a good thing to not do these things wildly, because security is connected to business and business to security. Security and the processes behind it is what creates data, and data drive decisions. So
Thanks.
there is no conflict anymore.
And I think somebody mentioned in the audience that it's also showing like how much you make money. Was that?
How much money at stake that you are willing to lose if you're not?
Yeah, that was, you were reading my mind. That's a very good question, because I wanted to ask that as well. But maybe I'll repeat it. Like, how do you see yourself or your teams in the enablement of making business? And is there even a way to put data behind it? Can you say, hey, I made, thanks to these policies, thanks to this compliance, I made money for the company? Onza.
That's a really good question. It's a complicated one.
Complicated question, yes.
But obviously, like, again, I'll be talking from our point of view, where our team is support infrastructure, security, and compliance. So traditional IT teams usually are filling the support role. Whoever is supporting the business is indirectly creating some revenue, but directly spending money. So we are a cost, no matter what. So obviously, it's always good to showcase money that we saved or money that we enabled for the business. But then again, like, it's hard. Right now, I'm actually having a discussion to create a tick box in our CRM for all our salespeople, especially in a certain market where it will be important.
Thank Thank you for being very specific.
When our prospects or our customers are actually asking for some of our compliance, some of our certification, some of our processes to be described, etc. So we can clearly see how big gap we have or what else we can do to enable even more prospects and more customers to go into the business. And that's exactly like what is happening right now, of course, on a much smaller scale. But as we will grow, we will mature this, and hopefully it will be measurable.
But we're growing as a business. We're having bigger and bigger clients. Are you directly connected to those clients?
Yes.
Yeah. So you are on the call with them, and for example, they ask you, "Do you have this certification?" You said, "Yes, we do," or "No, we don't." The same for you, Irena?
Pretty much same. Yeah, pretty much the same. There is a list of 10 requirements. You only have half. Well, that means no business.
Okay.
Yeah, or a high risk, which means some other implications. So yeah, it's interconnected.
There are actually like some examples from our field, like when you have a small startup, when you have a small company that is primary target is SMB business and more that S than the M, you don't really need to be compliant against anything, really. It's really territorial, country specifics. But once you start talking to the bigger customers, it's no longer really about your product and how good it is, but are you ticking their boxes? Because they are publicly traded companies. They need to protect their reputation. They simply cannot do business with you. They are not allowed to. Their internal rules and compliance actually dictate that, all right, we cannot talk to Muse because they don't have that.
Something.
And once you will have it, we will talk to you. We will even open the discussion, are you the right product for us? But without that, we don't even want to know if you are right for us. So that is something that everyone needs to really understand, that the compliance is not only telling you that you should keep your desk clean, and you should not have a post-it note on your screen with your password. Those are obviously silly mistakes. But the compliance is all about the business at the end of the day, and there are millions and billions of dollars to be made or wasted.
Yeah.
Well, my team is not directly talking with customers. It's other people in the company, and they work heavily on certifying our products so we can reach some markets. For example, U.S. government, you are not able to talk to them sometime unless you're certified for example, FedRAMP, or banking and insurance, pharma, if you're ISO 27001, or HIPAA or other certification. But it takes time to pass the certification. It takes a lot of money as well, because you need to reach out to a certified body that will spend quite a big amount of months to assess if you're passing the certification. And then you need to reassess to recertify your products on a regular basis. So, yeah.
Is it important for a security person or security teams to know the business, to know the clients, to understand what you're selling? And maybe let's use this opportunity to just tell, what are you selling? What is it that your company is selling? Yeah, Irena?
We produce a platform for data governance, which we run for our customers in PaaS, in AWS.
Is it B2B or?
It's B2B. Yeah. So it's quite a lengthy and complicated sales process, taking months, sometimes years to accomplish, with all the rounds of compliance checks and functional, non-functional requirements of the product selection, tenders and whatnot, which then finishes with the final decision, yes, this is going to be Atacama for us. So now then, again, the cycle starts with the proper setup, etc. So.
Yeah. And is it important for you to know what you're selling?
Of course,
the clients?
Yeah. Because I need to know from where the customer comes, understand their requirement, their mindset, and sometimes it's not their own choice. Like they say, oh, well, we have no offshoring rule, which means you cannot connect from Prague to our platform. Well, what do we do then? And I say, well, can we specify that in the contract? And they say, no, it's a regulation. We would love to, but we can't.
Is there anyone longer in Atacama than you?
Yeah. 15. We just celebrate 15 years.
Yeah, okay.
It's
So there are still somebody from the very beginning.
Yes.
Nice. Onza, how much do you know the clients and how much do you know the business?
A little bit.
You've traveled.
Yeah. So should I start with the?
Yeah, just say briefly
what are we
yeah.
doing? So Muse is a B2B, B2C fintech software company, and main focus is POS and PMS in the hospitality industry. So that's basically
Property management system, which is like the
better.
management of the hotels. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do you know? Do you know the client? Do you know? Have you stayed in the Muse hotel?
Yes, but only in Prague.
Tonight again?
Do you have discount as a benefit?
No, I don't remember exactly.
No, we have.
Anyway.
So do you need to know like some of the functionalities for you to be able
to be fair, like when it comes to like hospitality is mostly hotels, hostels, and things like that. And when it comes to the SMB market, there is pretty much like nothing interesting when it comes to compliance and security. It's starting to get interesting once you actually go to the markets where they care about those things, or we start talking to the bigger clients, bigger groups, because hospitality is, in most cases, when we're really talking about the biggest brands that everyone knows, hospitality is their main business, but they are actually like the group that is behind those big chains. Their business can be whatever. It's not anymore only hospitality. So we need to basically know the entire landscape of possibilities. And to be fair, before Muse, I came from big pharmaceutical industry is basically like one of the probably the most difficult.
most regulated, probably?
Most regulated for sure. You are heavily audited. You need to have a certificate in order to really conduct your business. And very close second spot is fintech. So you're touching people's health or you're touching people's money. Someone will be looking over your shoulder and ensure that you are doing it in the right way. So for me, to be fair, like the hospitality aspect can be swapped with anything, and it would be fairly similar because at the end of the day, like it's what we are trying to provide for the customers, right? So
your work is basically agnostic to what we sell. You would do it in a very similar fashion if it was another product. Yeah. So what does Pure sell?
Storage appliances. So similar to NetApps and HPs and IBM. But high performance.
Do you deal with hardware as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hardware storage only built on SSDs. So we built it from scratch. So that's why we're really performant. And then we're at the top right corner of the Gartner at the moment. We don't rely on some pre-built chassis. We're actually designing everything ourselves, and then we keep evolving every year and try to keep the performance and be at the top right corner.
And you know the business. You know the business.
A little bit. Not that I really should.
Yeah.
Really to do my job, but.
And I think you were the one when we were preparing for this thing. You said that it's a blessing to be in Europe in terms of security. I know that we complain about things, but what did you mean by that?
Because your data is safer in Europe than in other continents, and Europe cares about data more than some other countries. So recently I traveled in Malaysia, and then I went to a doctor, and then the doctor is just sending you some documents on WhatsApp. Then you started questioning. Okay.
In a group chat with other patients.
Well, when you know that the nurses have access to that WhatsApp, you like start to wonder, okay, is my data safe? In Europe, that would not really happen. So.
And you have one more very good story because we were talking about, for example, Irena, that she grew into the role of security through various. I know you were also an English teacher, so basically anyone can do it. But you mentioned something about a circus person. Oh, that wasn't meant as an insult. Don't it because you started laughing? That's
security or English teaching?
I hope Irena, you know how I meant it.
No, it's fine.
Now, I don't know if I should ask this question, but you said that there was somebody from a circus that joined the security and was a great performer.
The
No connection to being an English teacher and becoming a security person.
the school I attended years back, we welcome anyone from any background, from any nationality, as long as you have the will to study and to learn. And then one guy came from a family that was in a circus from generations. And then he happened to be one of the top talent at the end of the 5 years in school. And now he's making good money, I guess.
Better than in circus?
I don't know, but probably.
And we get to your quote that well, it's not your quote, you read it somewhere, that there is like...
Which makes it my quote.
Yes, you said, and I paraphrase it, that there is already now, or there will be missing 3 million people in the security field. Maybe tell us the source, and do you agree, and will you look for some circus people to join your team as well?
So I'll start from the end, for sure.
Yes.
I want the circus people. So the source is McKinsey. I probably already mentioned, like, I'm a little bit biased towards McKinsey. I like them because, they taught me everything. It was my first job. And they are publishing really papers on any given business topic that you can imagine. And one of them, somewhere in 2022, they published a paper on cybersecurity future. What is the path right now? Because they were writing it sort of post-pandemic, and they were mentioning that it is projected that there will be 3.5 million security-related positions opened in a not so distant future, which means now, because the article or the paper was 1 year old. And yeah, it's difficult. And
you can say it in one of those cameras.
It's difficult. It's difficult to find them.
We want you.
It's difficult to find the people. There is not that many of them on the market. It is sort of a new industry. But at the same time, like, people have to understand that security is not about us wearing hoodies and anonymous masks and fighting hackers on a regular basis. It is not so adventurous. There is loads of paperwork behind that. You need to know loads of different approaches to constantly repeating problems. And yeah,
constantly evolving problems. Yeah.
Exactly.
Constantly educating people.
So
I like how you just say those.
I like the fact that, like, pretty much everyone is hiring everywhere, because the most important thing is, like, do you have the will to learn something new? And if the will is there, then it is up to us to teach them, show them, and very soon they will be teaching us if they will have the right will. So finding the talent everywhere, but yeah, there is a scarcity of those people. So security.
Your team consists of former great athletes, long jumpers and triple jumpers, so you can really find it everywhere.
That's true. That's true.
Our team is, we have one guy coming from, he was working as a pharmacist in the army. Another one was a lawyer. We have another one as a project manager in network security. We have plenty of people coming from
We need to find 3 million of them.
Yeah.
We need to clone sysadmins and lawyers into just one very special breed of a human, because we need those.
That's another story for a different program. But Irena, the EY Cybersecurity Trophy. I know you don't post much on LinkedIn, but this is something you posted on LinkedIn. So what it means to you, and what was the process behind it?
Well, you post about the 2.5 kilo of glass, right? It's such a special thing that it's a rare opportunity to also attract attention to security, and attract attention of girls and juniors, that everyone can get in, because what the auditioning or the process of the selection of the candidates was about was submitting an interesting and unique story. Basically, a career path that led from somewhere, and how it developed into the CISO role. So that's what was rewarded by the trophy, really.
Was it for your team, or was it you specifically?
It was for me personally.
You have it. You have it here, or you?
I didn't bring it with me.
Okay.
Show off. Yeah. No, it was to reward a specific person, concretely myself. But
by the way, no.
But I did say that it's always a teamwork, and I wouldn't be here if there was not for the people around me. Even those that I selected and are part of my team directly, or those that are surrounding in other teams in this company. So being given the opportunity and making it known to others, like there is a chance to become a security practitioner from zero to hero.
Nice.
It is difficult. It takes 13 years, but you can get there. And I have to say, sometimes a junior person can do a better job than a certified, 20 years of experience.
You don't need to have 20 different certificates in your resume to do a good
boring.
job. You sometimes actually do a worse job than someone without a certificate.
Yeah. So
before we get to the questions, I have one big one. And I know I came up with it just before this talk, and I don't know if you said it was a good or bad question, but I'll ask it anyway. But how to make people comply, how to make people reply to what you want from them, and maybe what channels you use, and how successful you are. Onza.
That's a good question. So we tried multiple different things in Muse. Originally, we always loved the fact that we can talk about our mistakes publicly, so we were shaming people. So, hey, that guy didn't do that training, or that guy didn't accept that policy. And
I think it's important to say it was after many times we reminded it, right? It wasn't like...
Of course. It's reminders. If it's a platform, the platform has an ability to send you reminders. Those reminders might be, depending on your company, emails, Slack messages, doesn't matter. They can probably send you even a WhatsApp message. So basically, we tried everything. And
the bad thing is that people consider phishing, if they receive an email from a platform.
Don't even start. So there is a bunch of different ways how we can actually inform the people about something that we want from them, or they simply have to do something. And obviously, there is always a plethora of people that are simply ignoring it, or I didn't know that it's important. Even though that it's starting important, flames everywhere. However, we were thinking about what to do with all those people that will simply not do it. So originally, we took the traditional Muse approach, which is public shaming, but at some point, they
don't care.
They don't care. They don't care. So we were thinking about avoiding them, right?
Those who didn't do it.
No, those who did it. So basically, pushing people towards hey, there is some incentive at the end, right? Points, and then you can exchange those points for something. But But then we had the conversation about, but they have to do it. You know, like there isn't, like, why there would be a price for something that you have to do? It's part of your job. So we don't want to incentivize because there is no point. And then we simply apply the most radical approach, and that's sort of our take on the zero trust. And you know, prior to this conversation, we had a conversation, and you guys hate zero trust, which is great. I love it.
I love zero trust, but I hate the term.
Word. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So our approach is all those things that are mandatory for the business to do or to perform are part of your compliance status. You're not doing those things, you are no longer compliant, and we are applying zero trust initiative. You are blocked from all the systems. All the systems. You cannot do your work, which can result, I mean, that's just in my head, but for our contractors, you cannot invoice those hours. You are blocked. You cannot really work. And until the compliant bit that is missing is removed, we are not re-enabling. Sorry, we are, like, sometimes we have to re-enable, and then, you know, they have to do it immediately. But that's pretty much the approach right now. The real question is, does it actually solve something? So I will use my colleagues in the audience. How many people we actually disabled this Monday because of non-compliant issues? I think it was 19. Yeah. 27. There you go. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, hopefully they will learn at some point. Because
is anyone from the switched off today here? Maybe they wanted to learn how
they are not going to these meetups. So yeah, we will see if this approach will work. But at the end of the day, we don't have time to wait. You know, I think 30 reminders is enough. After 30th reminder, there has to be a punishment, quote unquote.
With 5,000 people, how do you?
Well, we have a plan, and we say we're gonna put in place those compliance, and then you need to be compliant by following those steps, and we're gonna enforce the steps by just blocking the access to the systems.
Also.
So we just
all of them, or do you have like some list of like 3 that are?
We plan the rollout of that compliance, and then we inform them. We tell them why it is good for the company, why it is good for them. And then we just follow the plan, and at some point they're blocked, and then, you know, they cannot do their work. So if they cannot do their work, they cannot fulfill the goals, the yearly goals, and, well, you know.
Irena.
We're not in the last part, but we're getting there probably. We just about started with some changes. Acceptable use policy is one of them, so we have a few tens of people who didn't accept yet, but we haven't reminded 30 times yet. I don't know what happens in the end. I guess something like this will have to happen at one point. Yeah, very unpopular steps. But what we would love to do is to rely on leaders. Leaders should say, hey guys, this is important, please sign everyone, make them understand as much as possible why this is important. Of course, you will always have the last ones who would say, no, I disagree. Well then...
It's not for everyone, right?
Yeah, like why? What makes you disagree? What do you not understand about these new rules or new restrictions?
But I guess it's also your role to educate the leaders, because they have their own so many work, so you have to do maybe just a paragraph of a memo, not a one-pager.
What we did was, with this policy, when it was first written, we had an internal discussion with the security IT teams, and we would put together our ideas on how it should work ideally, right? So restrict everything. Then we would take it and look at it in more reasonable perspective, saying, well, we would block the business essentially, so we have to step back. We stepped a lot back, and we said, this is allowed, you can do this, but you cannot do this. We would show this to the management circle saying, these are our recommendations how this could work. and they would say, oh, but I have this and that, and there was another round of discussion. When we concluded, okay, we're happy with this current version, then we made a round of ambassadors who will say, okay, you work in development, you work in, I don't know how many teams we involved, can you identify any potential blockers to your work? And they would say, yeah, I would not be able to work if this rule was on or active. So we said, okay, we didn't know, and we would again make amends, and then we would come up with the final version and put it in the whole Atacama.
You involve a lot of people just to maybe take the ownership as
Around
well.
100, yes. Yes.
Wow.
So, up to the 100 people
Great.
knew about.
This is a nice ending to this part that you collaborate a lot. And now we have time for questions. So if there is any question here, just raise your hand and Scooby will give you the microphone. Danica has the first question. And I will ask always to answer for one person. So always kind of let's choose that one person will answer this.
Hi. I don't know if is this working? Thanks so much for the talk. It was really interesting. I was just curious. I know one of you mentioned the projection of McKinsey, that there will be a lot of these types of jobs opening up. And I have some friends that are curious to make this kind of career switch. But how would you say this type of work is kind of remote friendly, or would you say it's one of those careers that benefit more from kind of that in-person contact?
Onza, I'll give this one to you.
It's difficult. I would love it if it would be remote friendly. But I think it's really important to know the business inside out. Travel in all your locations, travel in every single office that is on this planet, meet all the people, and unfortunately, are we talking remote? Like you want to work from home and do this job, or you want to work you want to be a digital nomad and do this job, because in established companies, in corporations where all these frameworks are already in place, I can imagine that you can definitely do it from wherever. But especially in a startup world, where you're really defining all those policies, you actually have to see them live, people using them, people misusing them. You wanna be part of it in order to do it right. But I guess, even though that I would love to be just a digital nomad and not being here in person, but just a laptop.
He wishes he wasn't here right now.
I think it's beneficial to be, especially at the beginning. If they want to do a career switch, then prepare yourself for a few years in the office, observing how the business actually operates.
Not on my team. Just saying.
So refer them to Atacama.
Okay, so I guess it also depends on the
company.
Depends on the company, on a role,
The size
on
of the company as well.
type of business and everything. Yeah, I haven't seen a face of one of my colleagues for months. He never comes to the office and never shows a face on camera. So,
but he's a good.
of course, yeah. He's a highly professional, very focused, very specialized threat hunter and malware analyst, and he's doing a great job.
All my teams are based in Mountain View in the US.
So you are the remote one.
We're 3 in Prague.
Okay.
So, and we're from different team within the security. So yeah, I mean it's possible.
But the original question was that they want to do the career switch.
Okay.
So I think it's fairly beneficial.
But I think that's maybe almost for almost any role.
I think
maybe
so.
To be with the buddy
You need to meet
who can
people.
really
You need
guide
to.
you. There is a question from Mario, so maybe you can raise your hand and Scooby will give you, but I'll ask one from Mario. How do you present risks to your leadership? Do you quantify them in some business language, fines, reputation consequences, etc., fair framework, for example? Irena, is that one for you, for example? Yeah.
Yeah, it is very hard to quantify risk. very hard because the calculation always can include more and more factors, then you would end up in, I don't know, a high-end mathematics. So we're just trying to say, like, what would happen if we got breached, for example? Well, quite a lot. Reputation loss is like one of the first factors, so we always have to be very careful, and this is like a number one, scaring thing in this business.
Plus, you're in a data world, so I think that's even like a
fines,
extra.
legal processes, and this nightmare of, how do you fix it? How do you build again the trust with your customers?
And that's why you need to keep the data up to date. And need to have the right set of data so you can measure the risk.
But you're gonna put the reputation under data, right? That's
How much does a reputation cost?
yeah.
Also, that's true, yeah.
All of it.
Well, it could be. It could kill the company.
And some companies, they insure the risk. They just say, okay, that's fine. We're going to get breached. That's fine. Insurance is there.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
I don't think it's going to cover.
There's one of the big insurance company that I met and I work with. They say, that's fine. We agree that we're going to get breached. We got an insurance that covers X million of dollars per breach per year.
Interesting. So, gentleman in red shirt.
Hi. Is it on? Yeah. I'm coming from engineering, so my point of view is engineering perspective. Series of 3 quick questions. I didn't hear any engineer joining security. Is it like engineers joining security, or it's not common, or
What do you mean by engineers?
Joining?
developers
If they join security teams?
joining security teams?
We have lots of engineers that are involved with security. They work with security as point of contact, so they need to know security.
But are they on the security side of barricade, or they're part?
They're like the bridge between the security team and the engineering. They're part of the engineering,
Okay.
and then they're here to answer any question that we may have towards the engineering team.
But they are not defining. Because my second question is, like, is it harder to convince engineers to do stuff right, or convince plus educate, or is it harder to educate common folk like sales, marketing, whatever?
Onza, do you see a difference with explaining security things to engineers and to...
When it comes to technical aspects, engineers or developers in general, they are technical people. Their opinions will be backed by real life examples. So the conversation is much more fruitful and at the same time more difficult. But to answer your first question, I think it's highly desirable to have engineers also in a security in any of the aspects, because they can help the compliance or governance or risk team create certain automations. Their skill will be still put in a place, and they could actually rely on the coding security practices. They can be the real, even though that I hate the word evangelists, in the company, they can be the ones who convince the developers. So it's actually highly desirable. But then you can say, so you need also one person from marketing in the team, so you can convince the whole company. But with engineers, definitely. Anyone from tech coming to security, huge benefit. And coming from all the other different aspects of the business, every experience is an experience. It definitely will be put in a place or put in use.
Product security architects are highly prized people. And there is such a shortage of them.
But we don't need 3 million of them, right?
Just 2.
And last question, what is the ratio? I mean, ratio of security people to engineering and to the rest of the organization, just to be able to handle all the conversations?
Difficult to say.
You said 5,000 people and it's 9 of you? 20 of you?
20 of us, yeah.
Okay. So that's...
But then there's a ratio of how many
That's what, 250?
how many research and development people
Right.
that are part of the company, how many finance, how many sales ops.
So the golden number, I'm not going to tell you because that differs from business to business, industry to industry. I think the most important thing is like if you have the right people in your security / compliance / whatever you want to call it in your company, if you have the right people there, then the top management needs to give them the necessary buy-in, and they really have to stick with them. Exactly. The fish always stinks from the head. If the head will not accept it, then the business will not accept it. So that's probably more important than giving you exact ratio. Your company has 1,000 people, well, at least 10. That's pointless.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll ask one more here from here and one more today. So I'll ask first one from here, and then it will be your turn. So give me a second. What best practices would you recommend for privileged access management without impact on dev experience? For example, admin consoles, authentication proxies, session recording. Irena, or you want to take it as
You
well?
need to know what you own first in order to do it properly. If you don't know what assets you own in a company, privileged access management cannot be achieved in a good way. It would be messy, time-consuming, really inefficient. So that's a foundation that you need to have.
Yeah.
And who needs to have access to what system as
And
well.
are you the decision maker, or are you the one, or is the security team the one that decides you have access to production database?
I mean,
Or not?
the CISO is driving the decision to make that project happen and to push for the needs. And we're here to back up the CISO. Hey, that's how we're going to do it. That's why we need to do it. And actually, we're doing it right now. We're rolling out PAM as we speak, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of communication with people, because that involves different departments, because they have different needs: HR, payroll, engineers. So,
Last question from the audience here.
I have a question. If where should the person start to transit to this profession? Like, should I get some kind of a training? Where do I get the knowledge? Where do I go? I cannot apply and say like I want to be there. I should have some kind of a basis. Should I?
Irena, you go.
You can show some interest, and that's it.
That's
I guess
it.
it's also about. I mean, it's also about
Depends
if
on-
the company is hiring, right?
Yeah, and what position. And it's good to start on the compliance side. So through some basic tasks, learn how the company works, how everything works. You can set the learning path. So some companies allow juniors, like total fresh beginners, to join them because they can train them. Some positions require a deep knowledge, and it cannot be done by a junior. You need to have at least some course certificate or education. So it really depends. If you're agnostic, if you just want to get into security, I suggest start with compliance because it's easier, and then you can learn the processes and the norms, the standards. And then maybe after you practice for some months, years, you can then divert to a different department.
And I imagine that maybe an IT support is a good way to kind of transition into the role.
Sysadmin, that's, I think, the best.
it is. Admin.
The best start.
Right?
But YouTube, Pluralsight, O'Reilly,
Mackenzie.
Udemy.
Google,
is a good-
Udemy.
Udemy is a good source,
There is
yeah.
so many courses,
You have a great
materials
opportunity to
read,
talk
to
all
watch,
three of
listen.
them after the presentation. So
I will definitely do it.
So thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope we put a human face on the security in a little bit. I hope you learned something. And I'll end up with the quote from Joseph Heller, which is, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that they're not after you. So with that, I would like to end this talk, and thank you all, the panelists, Irena, Onza, Eduard. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It was
Thank you very
also
much.
a pleasure.